guys, and welcome to Knit. In today's video we're going to go over how to make this cute little basic Amigurumi Luna doll body. And before I get started, I'd like to say a big thank you to my new patron, Saffron Bruno. I'm pretty sure I'm saying their name right, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm really excited. I finally got a patron on my Patreon, so if you want to learn more about all that and the free patterns and all that kind of stuff, you can go down below. Gonna do that, get that over with real quick. But to do this body, I already have a part 1 to this video where I showed you how you make the head, and I'm gonna plop that right over here, and it's gonna show you how I do this. With the original body, I made these with smaller eyes, but I actually really like how it looks with these bigger eyes. So I'm gonna be doing that from now on with all my little Luna dolls that I do. This is gonna be a base video, so I'm going to be doing a lot of other videos that show like extensions. Like I'm going to be doing a Daenerys video where I actually, let me see if I can find her, where I actually have like a wig that I'll show you how to do the wig, but the base body is going to be this video. And so I'm going to be doing Ariel, where I'm going to be doing a little mermaid, and I've actually got a little tail right here that's going to be going onto, so you can put the legs in it, and you can kind of scooter up in there. And so I'm going to be doing those videos coming up shortly, but this is basically just the base body and how to get that done. Alright, so do the head and then come back here. I've got a link down in the description, and I'm hopefully going to also get it up in the annotations and all that good stuff. What you will need for this project is just a basic worsted weight yarn. I'm using Red Heart Soft, which is in this nice kind of off cream color, because this is actually going to eventually be Daenerys, and I'm going to do that for my base. She's fairly fair looking, so I'm just using whatever the fairest color I could find was, which was Red Heart Off-White, I believe is. Red Heart Soft Off-White. I am going to need a darning needle, some fluff, and I'm using a size D3 or 3.25 millimeter crochet hook. This is a Susan Bates. Really, it doesn't matter what crochet hook you use, it's just whatever you need to use to get your tension right. For this tutorial, you will also need to have a general understanding of how to work in the round, how to single crochet, and how to chain, and also do some decreases. I'm going to show you how I do my decreases, but you want to generally be comfortable with how to do that. Okay, let's get started. So to start off with this design, we're going to work on the legs first. You've already got your head, that's already kind of just chilling out over here. He's hanging out. So for the legs, we're going to make 2. This is the first one, and it's really easy. All you're going to do is make a slip knot. I use my slip knot typically as a magic ring. It's my easy, lazy way of doing it. I'm going to chain 1, 2, and then I'm going to skip my first chain from my hook. Let me see if I can get a closer look at that. There we go. Alright, so we're going to skip this first chain from my hook. So we're not going to go into this one, but we're going to go into the very first, or the slip knot that we made. We're going to then place 5 single crochet inside of that one chain there, while also trying not to split the yarn, which is pretty much my forte. Half of my channel is just me trying not to split the yarn. So I'm going to go back in, I'm going to go 2, go back in. You'll notice that your magic ring is kind of widening and getting huge. We're going to go 3 and not split the yarn for the 50th time. Go back in, you'll notice that it's getting wide. Don't worry. 2, 3, 4, and then 5. You're then going to take your tail and you're going to pull it tight. So you'll have just this right here, a nice little basic ring. I'm going to pull my yarn here a little bit, and from here you're going to put 2 single crochet inside each of those 5, increasing to 10. So we're going to work in the round, and you're going to then go back into your very first single crochet that you made. Keeps wanting to focus on the head. I'm going to move the head out of frame because it's irking me that it's trying to focus on. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go back into the very first single crochet that we made, and we're going to place 2 single crochet inside that one. So 2. As I split my yarn, how did I even just do that? 2. Go into the next one. 1. I like to just say 3, 4, because that's pretty much what's going to happen. And yeah, I know I split my yarn there, but even if I redid it, it's not going to look right. 5, so I'll just fix it when I go by again and hide it underneath my stitch. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so for this first part here, I am not going to do a stitch marker quite yet. So I'm going to go around 10 more times, 10 more single crochets around, and then I pull my tail through, because I find that if I do it too early, it kind of gets wobbly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Luckily we're working with so few stitches here that you don't really need a stitch marker right away. You can just kind of count and keep track that way. Now I'm going to take my tail and use it as a stitch marker. You can use an actual stitch marker, but you don't have to. And I'm going to pull my tail through as a stitch marker because I find that that is, you know, cheap and inexpensive. And the goal here is you're going to want to go around 4 times total. So you did your increasing, and then you're going to go 1. This is your first time that you did with those 10 stitches. And then you're going to go 2, 3, 4. And you're going to want something that essentially looks like this. We're making 2. So I'll be right back once I get this done. And since I already did the first one, I'll show you how I connect them and how I turn that into the body. I'll be right back. We're just going to go around 10 more times. So basically you just single crochet around for 30 more stitches and keep going around. Super duper easy. I'm going to have the pattern right here for people that like written patterns. I'm not going to do a chart on this one because it seems pretty simplistic, and I don't want to put just a chart for like, I might put a chart like there with my pattern because it's super easy. But the body is where it starts getting kind of warp. Alright, be right back once I get those 30 stitches done. Alright, so you've made 2. I just did a slip stitch off on this one leg, and now I'm going to keep this leg just active. I'm not going to slip stitch off on this one. I'm going to take my tail out though, because that just kind of bothers me when I'm working. And I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to stuff it into the body so that I don't have to use as much stuffing overall. So now that you've got your other one already made and you've slip stitched off, you've done it again, and these are both exactly the same length. You're going to now, after you've done your 4 rounds, you're going to chain 4. I try to do these loose so that I can get back into them. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where the leg split is on the body. Next, you're going to take your other leg, and I like to go in from where I slip stitched in. That way I can try to tuck in that tail in between stitches, and I'll have a marker when I stop tucking at this side. So I'm going to now slip into that, and I'm going to actually not just slip stitch into that one, but I'm also going to slip stitch into the stitch on the other side. That way it's just one stitch. And I'm going to pull my tail through both of those stitches and single crochet. I'm now going to work with my tail as if it is a part of the work. So I'm going to put it right on top of there, go into my stitch, keep it between the stitches. You don't have to do this, it's just how I like to keep track. And you're going to single crochet around the entire thing. What you should end up with at the very end of this is you should end up with 28 stitches on your work. So I like to just kind of count, but generally once I get to here, I like to say that this is the start of my round. And I try not to split my yarn, like I do all the time. And I'd like to pull my tail and make sure that it's all nice and secure. I'm just going to single crochet around and single crochet around. So now here is where my stitch ends. So if you put it like this on the side, this is its side basically. There's two sides to either side, to either part of your body. This is one side, so I like to keep my tail right here. That way that's my marker. And now I'm going to just single crochet around without holding my tail as a part of it, until I get to where I attached with my chaining. So now you're going to want to make sure that everything's facing the way it should be facing, which can be a little wonky. Okay, so now that's how it should be facing, and I'm going to go into here, single crochet 1, go into my next chain, 2, next chain, 3, going into the backs of those chains, that is, 4. Now I'm going to go back into working into the stitches from my other side here. So 1, 2, there should only be 10 stitches that I'm going into. 1, 2, from this leg. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So now I've got these 4 stitches right here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 stitch, one of the chains, 2, 3, and 4. And now, well, usually this would be the very beginning of your round. I like to make it so that the round is 5 stitches ahead. So I'm going to move my round start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you're going into it 5 stitches extra, but it helps make things even for your rounds. So this is now my there we go. This is now my edge here. This is now my start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just 5. I undid that because I messed up my stitch there. You're going to single crochet to the other corner here. So that's 12 stitches, and you're going to single crochet 2 of those stitches together, because 28 is what stitches you should have actively on right now. And when you divide 28 by 2, you get 14, and then you have to subtract 2 from your decreasing, so that's going to be 12. So we're going to, this will all make sense in just a second. I'm also going to place a pattern right here at some point. So I'm going to single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's weird in the very first part of it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and now this is all just basically its own in the round. So now we're on the other corner right here. So we're going to decrease by putting our yarn in here. I'm doing an invisible decrease. So I put my hook into the first one, then I put it into the second one right there. I'm doing invisible, so let me do that again. We go into the stitch, go into the second stitch, pull my yarn through both of those loops, and then do a normal single crochet. So I'm going to repeat that by single crocheting 12 and then decreasing where I begin. So 1, because we're decreasing every single round on just the sides. I'm going to also stuff those legs in just a moment. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so now we have these 2 stitches on the side right here. We're going to go into the one and then go into the other one and decrease. So now we're on our new round. This is round 2 of our decreases for the body. I'm not counting the legs as rounds because that's just not really how that works. Well, technically it's round 3 if you count the chaining across, but I like to do this my decrease rounds. So this is the first round of decreasing. The second round, you're going to single crochet 11 and then decrease, single crochet 11 and then decrease, because you're decreasing along its sides the entire way up. You'll notice that it keeps getting smaller and smaller as you go, but very, very slowly as you go. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to go into this side here, go into this side here, decrease, and then I'm going to do another 11 and decrease on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and decrease. So 1, 2, and go in. And so now we've gone from 28 stitches to 26, from 26 to 24. Is what we should have, is 24 actively right now. And so you're going to keep doing this until you're down to 12 stitches. You're going to decrease 2 stitches on each side every single round. So we're going to keep doing that until we get to the size that we want. I'm going to stuff the legs and then I'll show you how I do my last decrease. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that you've done all of your decreases on the sides, you'll see that it is shaping upward like so. I've gotten it down to 14 stitches, so I'm going to show you how I finish off to get it down to 12. So I'm already back on this row here. I've done my decrease, so now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to keep single crocheting until I get to my other corner. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll get to the point where you're doing 5 stitches, and then you're going to take this and this, these next 2 stitches, go into both, do a nice little decrease, and you're going to do another 5. 1, 2, 3. Oh, if I can get into the stitch. The hard thing about these small stitches is, with small hooks, is that it's harder to get in to these stitches. And we're going to do our last single crochet, and what I do here, oops, I split my yarn. And what I do here, after I single crochet this, is I typically, on the very last stitch, I don't do the decrease 2. I skip this first stitch for my hook, and then I slip stitch into the next one right after that. So I'm skipping, going into my other stitch. I like to go into both because I feel like that creates a stronger slip stitch. And then I chain 1, and then I will break my yarn. I like to leave a nice long tail, so this is about to be 12 inches or so. I take my yarn and I just pull it through and I tighten it up. I like to finish off by stuffing what I haven't already stuffed. So I'll just kind of make sure it's completely full there. And then I'm going to sew the body onto the head. So we're going to take the head and plop him right there. The head and the body go like so. So I'm going to show you how I do that real quick once I finish stuffing this the amount that I would like. And also a darning needle now. There we go. After I show you how I sew this, I'm going to do the arms, and then that's just your basic body. It's really easy. It's not like a really hard pattern at all to get mastered down, and it's really quick. I also like to cut off my tail at this point. And because it's so worked into the rest of the piece, I don't have to worry about unraveling because I've already worked it into the... And that's why I single crochet around that tail for quite a little bit there. So that the tail won't unravel later. Alright, so I don't overstuff this because I can always stuff it while I'm sewing. I'm not going to show sewing the entire head. I'm just going to show how I basically do my basic part. I line up the head here with where I want it. I then go into around here. This is the second from last row. When you're decreasing, where you've got your 12 stitches around, you're going to want to make those 12 stitches that you have left line up with the 12 stitches from your second from last row. So I'm going to go like this. You can use stitch markers and put them in there so that it'll be nice and firm. I, however, I've got a pretty good grasp on where things need to go, so I just kind of pick a point along the 12 stitches on my head, and I pull it through. I go from one side into the other, and then I go from the bottom to the top of the stitch, like so, and I pull that through, and I repeat for the entire way around. So I'm going to go again into the head from left to right, or from right to left, excuse me, and then I'm going to go back from the bottom and go up, and that's how I get a nice seamless stitch. Try to keep your head as stable as you can while you're doing this. Luckily, I even have small hands, but I'm able to get this to stay. And you'll find that over time, you're going to want to start stuffing along the way. That's a little too high. Oops. There we go. And you just kind of just eyeball it when you're sewing stuff a lot of the time. So you'll notice that that looks pretty seamless when you're sewing it. So that's how I sew. I'm going to continue, and I'm probably going to stuff a little bit more before I finish off, and then I'll show you how I do the arms and how I sew those on, where I sew those on, and then it'll be pretty much done. I'll be right back. Alright, so now that I've got the body sewed on to my head, I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to make an arm. This is the first one. You're going to want to make two. I usually start out the same way as I did before, where I make my magic ring by taking a small you don't really need a long tail, really. And I'm going to do my chain 2 like I did with the rest of my stuff that I started, with the head and the legs, etc. And I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to skip the first chain right there, and I'm going to go into the very first chain that I made. This will be loose, that's alright. So I'm going to single crochet 6 inside of there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's getting really big, and 6. Again, it's got a giant hole in the center of it, but that will go away as soon as you pull on your tail. Now that's gone. What I do next is I'm going to increase from 6 stitches from my first row to 8 stitches in my next. So the way that I do that is I single crochet 2, and then on the 3rd stitch I do an increase. So I'm going to go back, working through the very first stitch like I'm working in the round. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then on this 3rd stitch I'm going to increase by going 3 and 4 in the same stitch. the third and fourth stitch should be in the same third stitch right here that you're making for the next round. I'm going to do that again. So 1, 2, apparently I made my stitches really tight there, and on my third stitch, if I can get in there, not split it, there we go, 3 and 4, same stitch, so that's 2 stitches within the same one. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches. Now you're going to want to go around for 5 rounds. As you can see here, this is where my increases ended. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you've done your 8 stitches around for 5 rounds, you're going to slip stitch off and we sew onto the side of the body right along the 14 stitch round for your body. So the 12 stitch is where you attach, the 14 stitch round is where I attach it to the body, like so. I like to show that you can see it like that. So I'm going to single crochet around for 5 rounds. You just simply go around. So I'm going to do my 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now that I've done it again, I've gone around, I'm going to take my tail and make it act as a stitch marker, and I'm going to go around for 4 more times. Keep going around until you get it to the length that you essentially want for your arm. I like it being at hip level because it's about right for what I like for my doll, but if you want it different, I will be right back, show you how I sew it along here, and that'll be pretty much all there is to the basic body for your doll. Be right back. Alright, so now that I've gone around 5 times, I'm going to slip stitch off, which is just me going into the first stitch of my 6th round, pulling my yarn through both stitches, and doing a quick little chain. I like to break my yarn, leaving a nice long enough tail so that when I want to sew I can. One thing that I do before I sew anything on, like an arm, is I go through the same stitch, this part right here where I was underneath my slip stitch, and I weasel my yarn underneath it, and I kind of pull tight enough so that it kind of pops like that. It just looks better in my opinion. And I do the same sewing as I did for the head up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave that tail for now. Actually, I'm going to feed the tail. Originally, where I was using it as a marker, I'm going to feed it through the rest of the body, and I'm going to cut that off. And split my yarn, because, you know, literally I have to do that like 20 times a day. There we go. And I pull it tight just to make sure that my circle is nice and tight. And I'm going to pick up these scissors, cut my tail, throw away that obviously, and now I've got my arm, and I put it, as you can see with this body right here, I place it not on the 12 stitch round but on the 14 stitch round, so the second from last round for the body. And you can always take your yarn and you can take your darning needle. What I like to do to help me stitch is I'll take it and basically put like a pin or whatever and hold it along the edge there. And I do the same thing where I go into the yarn on the between those rows, and then I go through the bottom up, and so on and so forth until I'm done sewing. This is a super easy way of sewing this on, and I find that it is seamless. I do find that I want to keep I pull my tail often to make sure that it's taut, so that way it's an invisible way of doing that. So I'm going to do this where I pull it. I'm going to make sure my tail's not just going wherever. Now at this point I can just take it off because it's staying there and I don't have to worry about it. I go underneath and pull it again, go under here, and I try to go right above on the underneath here. As long as I pull things, you know. I keep going. There we go. And on our last one, I like to go up between the two and go and put it through my last stitch right here. And then once that's done, I'll take my thread, go to the closest part where it shows where my yarn is coming out of the body, and then I push it through the rest of the body and pull through. And then I cut my tail. So that's all there is to making this super easy body for my Luna dolls. There's going to be a lot more tutorials that is going to use this as a base, so stay tuned for that. I'm definitely going to be doing a mermaid, I'm going to be doing a Daenerys, I'm going to be doing probably a bunch of the Disney princesses, but Disney, just it looks like them or whatever. So stay tuned for that, and I will be posting those hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be a written pattern for this, so if you're confused at any point in time, there's going to be a PDF right on our Ravelry that'll be linked right down below. So stay tuned for that. And again, I'd like to say a big thank you to Saffron, my new Patreon subscriber, so my new patron. If you're interested in doing anything with Patreon, I am on patreon.com/knit, which was really nice and convenient that I was able to get one that was so easy, a nice URL that's super duper easy. Alright, if you have any suggestions for what do you think my cute little Luna body would look cute as for any kind of doll thing there, go ahead and put that down in the description. And until next time, guys, bye.